And joining us now to discuss the developments of the war in Gaza is Colonel retired Miri, a senior fellow at the International Institute for Counterterrorism. Thanks so much for being with us as always.
Always a pleasure.
Miri, I first want to start by asking you about the amount of terrorists you think that could still be operating in Gaza City. We know the population is roughly about 1 million people, but officials here are indicating there could be thousands of terrorists that fight back the IDF once they arrive. What's your take?
So we've already been fighting in the Gaza Strip for 23 months. We've already taken out, I even want to say, tens of thousands of terrorists. But the population of the Gaza Strip is made up out of over 2 million people, half of them under the age of 18. And there's no question that that younger generation, and I say it very sadly, the 16, the 17, the 18-year-olds are also going to be trained, newly trained. So I think that we're still looking at thousands. That's always going to be a challenge. The question is what weapons they have, how much they manage to continue to do what they've always done, to booby-trap the different areas, to turn the whole urban facade into different positions, you know, in the living room and in the children's room and in the mosque and in the school. So we're looking at thousands of terrorists and endless different possibilities to attack the IDF troops.
Well, with that being said, Miri, I want to ask you about how long this operation could go on in Gaza City, because remember, troops right now in places like Rafah, where there might not be this combat fighting, that's where these explosions are taking place from these explosives that are being planted in these bombed out locations already. But how much longer could this Gaza City offensive actually go on for?
So I want to say sadly, because it doesn't make me happy or you happy, but it can go on for quite a while. What the IDF is doing now is working slowly and systematically. I say that because doing it slowly and systematically saves lives. It doesn't make the war any easier. War is a terrible place. But when you work slowly, systematically, and you do so, it's not about saving the soldiers' lives. It's about protecting, in that sense, in their own defense. It's about saving the civilians. It's about making sure that telling people move to other places where you don't have this high intensity warfare, because all of the Gaza Strip is in a war zone, that makes the whole difference. So I do think, Shosh, that we need to be aware this can take a month or 2 or 3. It's not going to be over tomorrow morning.
And we're hearing that President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu have threatened and warned Hamas not to harm the hostages and use them as human shields. What does that actually mean? We know the IDF spokesperson said that Gaza City is one of the largest human shields in history at this point in time. But literally speaking, can you just give us examples and can you break down for us how they could use the hostages as human shields?
So there are two different aspects. As you said, the human shields is that all of this urban people who are there, there's 1 million people who are inside them, and all of them are used as human shields. They're being told by Hamas not to leave. We're talking now about the hostages, about the people that were taken so brutally on October 7th and have been held, as you said, for over 700 days inside the Gaza Strip. It means that they would take them out of the tunnels where most of the time they're holding them. They hold them there because for them, they are a strategic asset, and they'll bring them out on purpose to do two things. One, I don't know how to put this in non-military terms, but I'm going to say to freak out the troops. Can you imagine what it's like if you would see an Israeli hostage being held outside? But they can do it in a much more traumatic, devious way. They can use footage. They can use the voice. They can suddenly have, you know, a loud speaker blaring with the voice of a hostage. So it's not just about bringing out a human being, putting him out there and doing so on purpose so that that person would be killed by Israeli fire, but also doing it by using the voices, by using footage, by showing it in such a way. All of this done to make sure that the IDF does not act against the Hamas. The IDF is very aware of this. It is not something that they're not aware of. I think the reality is harsher when you actually meet it.
Yeah, thanks for just giving detail on that, because I think people know these generic blanket statements of using hostages as human shields, but not necessarily knowing what it specifically means. I want to ask you, with these thousands of fighters of Hamas that could be in Gaza City, are they panicking in a time like this, knowing the IDF is coming in with significant force?
I think that they're most definitely on what I'm going to call the defense, and that's exactly where we want them to be. They should not be the ones defining the rules of the game. They should not be the ones who are on the initiative against Israeli troops. We're inside urban area. They have an advantage as the defensive force in an urban area. That's why we work slowly, because they have the tunnels and the shafts where they can come out, shoot, and go back into the tunnel. Because they've turned this entire urban area into one big IED, explosive booby-trap arena. So you have to take it slowly. I don't think that they're fleeing. I do think that there are going to be those, remember that even though you're showing photographs of them now with uniforms on, they're not in uniform.
Right.
So this is also important to tell everybody. They'll flee together with the civilians wearing civilian clothes and hide, again, using those civilians as their own human shields.
Miri Eisen, thanks so much for being with us as always. Appreciate it.
Thank you.